at free agency now. We talked about who are the free agents that we have. We have an ungodly number of free agents this year, and also too we have this year we have a lot of uh, it's a very big number. So we're gonna have to fill some spots here in the NFL on the Ravens here. So what we're gonna do here, also too, we talked about what we need, right? So sometimes they run hand in hand, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's not just free agents leaving; it's also to players not performing, injured, retire, whatever it is. So we talked about that. So let's go ahead and look at what's out here. Real quick, we kind of talked about it last week, but free agency, what could the Ravens be looking at? Backup quarterback, D end, uh, defensive end, inside linebacker, safety. I, I think these are backup quarterback. I think they're looking at. I think you probably lose Tyler Huntley, so they might be looking at um, a backup quarterback in free agency. I'm not sure. They're not just going to go with um, Josh Johnson. That could be very possible. They could just say, just go ahead with that, go in the draft and go get somebody. Defensive end is definitely based on what happens with Matabuke. If Matabuke stays, this is probably something maybe late in the draft you'll see somebody, but they could be looking at a free agent. If you lose out on Matabuke, it's going to be very expensive to sign Matabuke. Inside linebacker, you're probably definitely losing Patrick Queen. That's probably he's a top free agent. I don't see any way that they resign him. Trent Simpson should start next year. You would think so. They might sign a vet, maybe a Willie Gay or something like that. Safety as well is a position. Geno Stone could be going out the door. They still have Marcus Williams. They still have Kyle Hamilton. So you're probably not looking for a starter, but it's not out of the realm. I think a veteran safety is something that they're looking at. Not looking at special teams. They're going to have Nick Moore come back as well. Fullback, you're not going to Patrick Carr. You're going to bring back center. You have the best center in the league. I think maybe Tyler Linderbaum, tight end, nose tackle. I wouldn't see those in free agency. I don't think. One position you are looking at is cornerback. So this is the position that the Ravens are looking at as far as free agency. These are the top guys. Jalen Johnson had a great season for the Bears. Who knows what the Bears are actually doing as far as that goes as well. L'Jarius Sneed, I thought he was terrific this season right there. Even with Gilmore, even with not Gilmore, with Trent McDuffie on the other side, I thought Jarius Sneed was terrific. These two guys are top shelf. They're going to get big money in free agency. I'm not sure the Ravens are looking to spend that type of money. Interesting to see, believe it or not, what happens with Marlon. Is Marlon healthy enough to go? I've seen his name a couple times on the cut list. I'm not quite sure they're going that far, but Marlon's health is a thing. He's missed the last couple seasons. He's been banged up. So how much are they willing to pay Marlon? Could they replace him with a top tier guy? Interesting. See, Brandon Stevens, I think, is absolutely earned his spot at the other spot. Interesting. Here's the guys a little bit probably more affordable. Kendall Fuller, a good nickel corner. He's kind of worked his way into more of a starter corner. Hasn't been signed yet by the Commanders. I think this is a very interesting type player. Stephon Gilmore, I think, is been terrific. He's a former defensive player of the year. He's older, which is why he's out here. He was very godsend for the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys re-signed him, but I think the Ravens might look at it if they do move on from Marlon. He might be a cheaper Marlon. Owuzike from the Bengals. He was probably their best corner. I think he's in division, so they know him. He's definitely probably at the bottom of the list. I think he's a pretty good separation, though, from him. But I think he's in division. They know him. And I think he'll be less expensive than the other guys on the list. Cornerback, I don't necessarily believe maybe they don't do anything. It is possible that they leave it like it is. Edge rush. Now you got some good edge rush years. Two guys I think make your franchise. Josh Allen, not Josh Allen, the quarterback. Josh Allen, the outstanding outside edge rush guy for the Jags. He had a tremendous year for them. I think he can they franchise him if they can't sign him. I don't think they're going to let him go. Brian Burns, I think, is tremendously underrated. I think, man, if he's on a bad team there, I think his sack production was down, but I think that's probably maybe working the Ravens' favor signing this guy. I think this is a more permanent solution, these two guys, to the edge rush problem than they had. So I definitely think that's a thing. Danielle Hunter, I think, has been pretty good for the Vikings for a good while now. I think he's the real deal. I'm not sure how he fits in the Ravens scheme because he's not a pure edge. I think he's more of a 4-3 end. So I don't know how good he would be at edge rush. The Ravens are kind of like very cryptic about it, but it's more of an outside, it's more of a 3-4-ish old school guy, like a linebacker slash. I don't know if that would work, but Daniel Hunt's pretty good. I mean, he's pretty good. These two guys, bit of a question mark despite the great production. Jonathan Greenard for the Texans, I think he's going to be available. I think he's going to be very interesting. He had like 12 sacks for them last year. He's free agent. I don't know how much they're going to spend since they had Will Anderson in the draft last year as well. His price tag is going to be pretty high. Guy, pretty young. Here's a name you might not even know. Bryce Huff had 10 sacks for the Jets. So that's outstanding. He kind of more fits the Ravens scheme. So interesting. I think like playing with Robert Saleh, it's more like the Ravens scheme as well. Interesting to see what he does because this is a guy who kind of came out of nowhere with that scheme. I don't know how much the Jets are going to spend. Interesting to see what happens there. Now, edge rush, not sure what they're going to do with edge rush. They may not do anything. That's a position, that's why it's 5. They may sign Matabuke and just say, we're going to go in the draft. Interesting edge rush, real quick. Let me go back to it real quick. Edge rush, real quick. Despite the year that they had, Javian Clowney's a free agent, Cal Van Noy, as good as he was, a lot of those guys, they really haven't solved anything. We still don't know. Tyus Bowser may get cut. David Ojabo is coming back, may not come back. Oweh, jury's still out. So this is still a need. But we'll see. We'll see how much they spend on it. Boy, there's been a lot of talk about this. Let's go get it. Let it begin. Running back. I have Saquon, I think, is the number one running back out there. I think anybody's crazy not to want Saquon over Henry. I think Saquon, as long as he can stay healthy, he's tremendous. He's younger. He's got great speed. I think he could fit him in any system. I think he's an outstanding running back. I definitely do think I'm not sure the Giants are going to franchise him again. They might. Definitely think they might just franchise him again if they can't sign him. I think he's ready to get out of there too. I'm not sure he wants to be back in New York. I think he's ready to go ahead and get out of there. So I don't know. I said this last week. I don't know exactly what the Ravens want to do at running back. I don't know. I'm not sure that they want to do anything. This is kind of why it's in the middle. But I can tell you what, you got Saquon Barkley out there. They're thinking about it. They have to. There's no way he's out here and does that. Derrick Henry, so many people are convinced he's signing with the Ravens. I don't know why. They've had a couple chances to sign Derrick Henry. I'm not. Look, I'm fine if they sign him. I'm not because look, this guy. You can forget about it. You need 3 guys to tackle Derrick Henry, but I'm just not as convinced. And they very well might. You never know. I don't know how much they want to spend on this. I think they're definitely interested for no money. I do believe that. I do believe that if they can like get a Mark Ingram type deal, like a 3-year, $15 million, like maybe in modern day, maybe tick that up to like a 3-year, $21 million, maybe like something like that. Sure, but I don't think they're that they want to spend that much on a Derrick Henry. I'm not against it. Um, I'm just not as sold on that. I think these are the guys I think it is possible. DeAndre Swift was good with the Eagles last year. I think that's definitely a possibility. This will be less expensive. Josh Jacobs, Lord only knows what the Raiders are doing. Um, they signed Antonio Pierce. This guy had like 1,800 yards the year before. Production was kind of more where it's been. So I definitely could see it. Tony Pollard, I think, was kind of exposed. I think he's pretty good. Um, Tony Pollard, he was pretty good. I don't think I think we saw he's not a number one back. I kind of told Cowboys fans this for a while. They were so anxious to get rid of Zeke Elliott, and then now you're left with Tony Pollard, who's not bad, but he's just not a stud in that. Now, three. These are more likely. I think this is guys. Now we're taking into the territory. I think where the Ravens might sign somebody. Kevin Dotson, I think, is a number one target at guard. The Rams line is pretty good. Rams linemen are usually pretty good. So I think that's a possibility. Robert Hunt is out there for the Dolphins. I think decent enough starter. I think it's a big drop off after one. Decent enough, I think. Good, younger though. I think this is a younger, cheaper. This is a younger option than our Seven Zeitler. This is number three. Zeitler, the option that did not come to a deal. His contract is voided. He is going to be a free agent. I don't think he resigns the Ravens. I don't think he does. I don't think it's out of the realm. It'd be interesting to see what the market is for him. I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't have a good market. He's too good of a player. This is and right guard is such a tough spot to find. Ezra Cleveland is there as well. Damian Lewis also is there for the Seahawks. They're basically barely starters as well. They're guys at minimal upgrade. I think those are guys. I'm not sure they're upgrades over Zeitler. I have them behind Zeitler, but I think they're decent players. I think that's if Zeitler's a B, these guys are C minus. like, but I think it might be worth doing because you may be losing John Simpson. John Simpson, I don't have him on the list. I'd have him about 7 or 8. He's a free agent as well. So they're doing something. They're doing something at the guard. Oh, wow. Wide receiver. This is probably one of the better group of wide receivers, top 5 that we've seen in free agency. So interesting to see what happens here. T. Higgins, I think, is the number one player in the entire free agency in the NFL. I think had it not been for the injury, this would be very interesting to see what happens. The Bengals are gonna franchise him. I don't think they keep T. Higgins. I think they could be bluffing. They could be just trying to get a trade of some kind. I don't see how you pay a T. Higgins what he's worth. That's going to be very, very expensive, and you pay Jamar Chase the same amount. I don't see that. Uh, I think the thing is the cool thing about this one is like almost on any other team. I don't think it's a no-brain. I think it's a no-brain. I think you would keep T. Higgins and you franchise him and keep him. But I'm not sure you could afford both receivers. But he may be back. They may franchise him, may get expensive. Michael Pittman. I'm on record saying the Colts are always a mess. So I never know what the Colts are doing as far as free agency. This is really it's really baffling to me. Why is he even on this list and why they get that far? I don't know why this isn't done already. So the fact that it's not done is telling me something. They may franchise him as well. With a young quarterback, you would think you want to keep him as good as he's been, but he's out here as a free agent. Um, I think the Ravens would have to look at that. I'm not sure they want to spend that much money on a receiver. Already have Zay Flowers, etc. But I think they'd have to look at that. Uh, Mike Evans is top shelf. Now, this is more interesting. Receivers, as much as everybody talks about running backs dropping down once they turn 30, so do wide receivers, except for one of maybe two guys. I think Evans could be the exception to the rule. 10 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, not with great quarterbacks. He had Tom Brady a couple years. He had Baker Mayfield this year. He had James Winston. So there's no question that he's going to be successful no matter where he goes. Interesting to see how much he gets because it is a bit of a roll of dice. receivers, once they get older, are less effective. And he's going to want a lot of money. And he's earned it because he's been at 1,000 yards every season. Not even the top two guys on this list can say that. He's stayed healthy. He's been productive. Calvin Ridley. This would be an outstanding signing for the Ravens. Really got my eye on this one. Kind of went under the radar being traded away from Atlanta. He got in some trouble. He was unfortunately he got in trouble. He got suspended for the league gambling by the league. Pretty good last year for Jacksonville. I don't think they're going to give him the kind of money he's looking for. I like it. I think Ridley is kind of under the radar. I don't think he's too far from the really good receiver we saw so many years in Atlanta. I don't think he's quite at 30 yet. I like it. Ridley, I think the fourth best receiver. I think also too in a lot of other years he'd be higher. I think he's better than Juju Smith-Schuster. A lot of the lists we had last year. Hollywood Brown. I think they think about it. I definitely think they think about it. I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens only because I think Zay Flowers and Hollywood Brown, I don't think that would work. You can't, I don't think you'd have two receivers like undersized like that, who are basically the same guy. I mean, what would you do with Hollywood if you got Zay Flowers and things like that? That's kind of like the Tyler Lockett rumor I keep hearing. I'm kind of not in the same category with that, but I don't know. But I definitely think they think about it, simply because the familiarity with Lamar Jackson. And also another thing here, I don't know what Bateman's future is here. Got to think about that here. Bateman is that's a tough one because I don't know how they feel about Bateman. Would they even pick up a fifth-year option for Bateman at this point? So that's interesting. Interesting to see, though. I don't think it's completely out of the pale, but I do think they think about it. Last group here. Now Ravens need an offensive tackle, I think, probably number one. Look at this list, though. It's not overwhelming here at all. Trent Brown is number 3. Tyron Smith, number 2. Michael Wanu is number 1. He's not even really a tackle. Like, he's a tackle. You could probably put him in tackle, and it would work. New England historically has had good lines. They're going through a total overhaul, but I'm not sure these top 3 guys are upgrade. Tyron Smith, I think, is definitely gone in Dallas, as great as he's been. Injuries are kind of catching up to him. Jonah Williams, I think, is pretty interesting as well with the Rams. And Mekhi Becton is there for the Jets. So the number one need is very light in terms of players. I don't think it's out of the realm that they sign any of these guys, especially to see what happens with Morgan Moses in the offseason. So I think that's kind of what it is there. I think they're going to go into draft more than free agency, but it wouldn't completely shock me if they signed a tackle. There it is. Free agent targets for the Ravens. You also never know who's going to be cut. You also never know who's going to be out there. Bears cut